The mansion breathed silence. 10 months since Amelia died, and Elias Thorne still heard her laughter echoing through empty rooms. He sat at the grand piano, fingers hovering over keys he couldn't bring himself to touch. Everything he'd built, the billion-dollar empire, the penthouse overlooking Manhattan, meant nothing without her. Staff whispered around him like ghosts. The clock ticked softer now. Even grief had learned to be quiet in his presence. He needed to leave. Needed to breathe air that didn't smell like her perfume. It didn't carry memories in every corner. St. Matthew's Retreat Center took him without questions. No press. No photos. No pity. The cabin sat at the edge of a garden, wild and overgrown. That's where he first saw her. Clara Evans knelt in the dirt, gloves stained with soil, completely absorbed in trimming rose stems. She didn't notice him at first. When she did, she didn't flinch, didn't smile, didn't offer condolences she couldn't possibly know he needed. She just kept working. Elias found himself stopping by the garden the next day. And the next, he never spoke. She never asked. The silence between them felt sacred. Like neither wanted to shatter whatever fragile thing was forming in the space between words. On the third day, he finally broke. "Why do you bother with them? They'll be dead by October." Clara looked up, dirt smudged on her cheek. "Because they're alive today." Something in his chest cracked open. He walked away before she could see the tears. For a week, he avoided the garden. Avoided her. Avoided the strange feeling that maybe, just maybe, the world hadn't completely stopped. But on the 10th day, he came back. Clara handed him a pair of gloves without a word. "No thorns today," he hesitated, then took them. They planted in silence until the sun began to set, painting the sky in bruised purples and golds. "My wife loved dahlias," he said quietly. Clara's hands stilled in the soil. She didn't look at him. "Then we'll plant those next." That night, Elias dreamed of Amelia for the first time without waking up screaming. In the dream, she was smiling. Just smiling. He woke with tears on his face and Clara's words in his head, "Because they're alive today." The next morning, he returned to the garden. Clara was already there, digging holes for dahlia bulbs. She glanced up as he approached. "You came back, I did." She handed him a trowel. "Good. I was starting to think you were scared of dirt." "I'm scared of a lot of things," he admitted. Clara tilted her head, studying him with those impossibly calm eyes. "Like what?" He opened his mouth to answer when a woman's voice cut through the morning air, sharp and familiar. "Elias Thorne. I've been looking everywhere for you." He turned, blood going cold. Standing at the garden gate, dressed in designer black, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, was his late wife's sister, Victoria, and she was holding a folder that made his stomach drop. "We need to talk," she said, her voice sweet as poison. "About Amelia. About what she knew before she died." Clara stood slowly, gloves in hand, watching the color drain from Elias's face. "Who is she?" Clara asked softly. Elias couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Because whatever was in that folder, whatever Victoria had come to say, was about to destroy the only peace he'd found in 10 months. Victoria smiled wider. "I'm family. And family shares secrets." Victoria's heels clicked against the stone path like a countdown. Elias felt Clara's eyes on him, questioning, but he couldn't look at her. Couldn't explain. "Can we talk privately?" Victoria asked, though it wasn't really a question. "Anything you need to say, you can say here," Elias replied, his voice harder than he intended. Victoria's smile turned brittle. She opened the folder, pulling out a photograph. Even from a distance, Clara could see it was a woman, beautiful, laughing. "Amelia," Elias whispered. "My sister," Victoria corrected. "Who you apparently didn't know as well as you thought." Clara started to back away, but Elias's hand shot out, catching her wrist. "Stay, please." The desperation in his voice stopped her cold. Victoria stepped closer, holding out the photograph. "Did you know she was planning to leave you?" The words hung in the air like smoke. Elias went rigid. "That's a lie, is it? Then explain these." Victoria pulled out more papers. Apartment listings. Divorce attorney consultations. All dated 3 weeks before the accident. She was done, Elias. She just didn't have the courage to tell you. Stop, he breathed. But Victoria wasn't finished. She called me the night she died, said she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't watch you love your company more than you loved her? You want to know why you missed her last call? Because she wasn't calling to say goodbye. She was calling to tell you it was over. Elias stumbled backward. Clara caught his arm, steadying him. Why are you doing this? Clara demanded. Victoria's eyes flicked to her, cold and assessing. Because he's been playing the grieving widower for 10 months while my sister's memory gets buried in his guilt. Someone needs to tell him the truth. The truth, Elias said slowly, finding his voice again, is that you hated that she married me? You hated that she was happy. Happy. Victoria laughed. She was miserable, and you were too blind to see it. Clara felt Elias trembling beside her. She turned to Victoria, her voice quiet but sharp as glass. I think you should leave. I'm not done, as Clara said firmly. You are. Something in her tone made Victoria pause. She looked between them, then smiled knowingly. Oh, I see. You've already found a replacement. How convenient. Get out, Elias said, his voice breaking. Victoria tucked the papers back into the folder. Keep them. Consider it a gift. Maybe now you can stop pretending you're the victim in this story. She walked away, leaving silence and devastation in her wake. Elias sank onto the garden bench, head in his hands. Clara stood beside him, unsure whether to speak or disappear. Finally, he looked up at her. It's not true. She loved me. I know she did. Then that's what matters, Clara said softly. But what if I failed her? What if she was unhappy and I was too busy to notice? Clara sat down beside him. Grief makes us question everything, doubt every memory. But you can't let someone else's poison rewrite your story. How do you know? His voice cracked. How do you know it's poison and not truth? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, because I know what it looks like when someone tries to convince you that love was a lie. My foster mother did the same thing after my sister ran away. Told me we were never really family, that it was all pretend. Elias turned to her, seeing her clearly for the first time. Was it? No, Clara said. It was real. Even if it ended badly. Even if it hurt. Love doesn't stop being real just because it's complicated. He wanted to believe her. Wanted to trust that Amelia had loved him. That their years together hadn't been a beautiful delusion. But the doubt was a seed now, planted deep. I need to know, he said finally. I need to know if Victoria's telling the truth. Clara nodded slowly. Then we'll find out. Together. That night, Elias returned to his cabin and opened his laptop for the first time in months. He searched through Amelia's emails, her phone records. Anything that might prove or disprove Victoria's claims. What he found made his blood run cold. A message. Sent the day before the accident to someone named Marcus. I can't keep pretending. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk about what happens next. Elias stared at the screen, heart hammering. Who was Marcus? And what had Amelia been pretending? Elias didn't sleep. He sat in the dark cabin, staring at the message until the words blurred. By dawn, he'd made a decision. He found Clara in the garden at sunrise, already working. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, and whatever she saw in his face made her stand immediately. What happened? I found something. He showed her the message on his phone. I need to know who Marcus is. Clara read it twice, her expression unreadable. What are you going to do? Find him, Elias. Maybe you should think about this. Maybe some answers will only hurt more. I'm already hurt, he said. I need to know the truth. Took 2 days and a private investigator, but they found Marcus. He wasn't hard to track. He'd sent flowers to Amelia's funeral. Signed the card, "You deserved better." Marcus agreed to meet at a coffee shop in the city. Elias insisted Clara come with him. He couldn't do this alone. Marcus was younger than Elias expected. Mid-30s, kind eyes, a worn leather jacket. He stood when they arrived, hands in his pockets, looking like he'd been dreading this moment for months. You must be Elias, and you must be the man my wife was pretending with. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Elias's voice was cold, controlled. Explain to me why my wife was messaging you the day before she died. Marcus glanced at Clara, then back at Elias. Can we sit? They sat. The coffee shop hummed around them, oblivious to the bomb about to detonate. I'm a divorce attorney, Marcus said quietly. Amelia came to me 3 months before the accident. She wanted to know her options. The world tilted. Clara's hand found Elias's under the table, squeezing. So it's true, Elias breathed. She was leaving me. No. Marcus leaned forward, urgent. She wasn't. That's what she came to tell me that day. She'd changed her mind. Elias looked up sharply. What? She called me a week before the accident. Said she'd been wrong. That she'd let her sister convince her you didn't care, that you were married to your work. But she realized it wasn't true. You were just grieving your father, trying to hold everything together. She wanted to cancel the consultation. Wanted to make things right? Then why the message? What did she mean by pretending? Marcus's expression softened. She meant pretending she was fine. Pretending she didn't need help. She was planning to tell you everything that night. About the consultations, about her doubts, about how sorry she was for not talking to you sooner. Elias felt something break and mend simultaneously in his chest. She was coming home to tell me, yes, and then she died. Marcus nodded. I'm sorry. I should have reached out sooner, but I thought it would only make things worse. They sat in silence. Clara felt Elias trembling beside her, could see him trying to process a year's worth of guilt being rewritten in minutes. There's something else, Marcus said carefully. Victoria knew. Amelia told her sister she'd changed her mind. Told her she was going to work on the marriage. Elias looked up slowly. Victoria knew Amelia wasn't leaving me, and she let me believe otherwise. The anger that flooded through him was cold and precise. He stood abruptly, chair scraping, Elias, Clara said, standing with him. What are you going to do? But he was already walking out. They found Victoria at Amelia's grave. She was placing flowers, white roses, when Elias's voice cut through the cemetery quiet. You lied to me? Victoria turned, unsurprised. Elias and the gardener. How domestic. You knew Amelia changed her mind. You knew she wasn't leaving. Victoria's smile didn't waver. I knew my sister made a mistake. Again. Why would you do this? Because Victoria said, her voice finally showing emotion, raw and bitter, you didn't deserve her. You never did. And when she died, I had to watch you play the devastated husband while I lost my sister, my only family. You got to be the victim, and I got nothing. So you tried to destroy her memory? Tried to make me believe she didn't love me? I tried to make you feel what I felt. Lost, betrayed, alone. Clara stepped forward. That's not grief. That's revenge. Victoria's eyes snapped to her. What would you know about it? You're nobody. A gardener playing therapist to a broken man. I know, Clara said quietly, that hurt people, and you're drowning in it. Victoria's face crumpled for just a second before she caught herself. Get away from my sister's grave. Both of you. Elias didn't move. I loved her. Whatever you think, whatever you need to believe, I loved Amelia with everything I had. And it still wasn't enough, Victoria whispered. She still died alone. The words hit like a bullet. Elias stepped back, and Clara saw the guilt flooding back into his eyes, fresh and vicious. Come on, Clara said softly, taking his arm. Let's go. They left Victoria standing among the graves. In the car, Elias was silent. Clara drove, not knowing what to say, knowing there were no right words for this. Finally, he spoke. She's right. Amelia died alone because I wasn't there. It's not your fault, isn't it? Clara pulled over, turning to face him. Elias, you can't carry this. You'll drown. Maybe I should. No. Her voice was fierce now. I won't let you. He looked at her, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. Something desperate and hungry. Why do you care so much? Clara opened her mouth to answer, but before she could, Elias kissed her. It was sudden, fierce. Tasting of grief and need, and something neither of them were ready to name when they broke apart. Both were breathing hard. "I can't do this," Clara whispered. "I can't be your escape from pain." "You're not," Elias said. "You're the only thing that makes me want to stay." But even as he said it, Clara saw the truth in his eyes. He was still in love with a ghost, and she was falling for a man who might never be able to love her back. Asterisk, they didn't speak on the drive back to the retreat. The kiss hung between them like smoke, impossible to ignore, impossible to name. When Clara pulled into the parking lot, Elias finally broke the silence. "I shouldn't have done that." "No," Clara agreed. "You shouldn't have, but I'm not sorry." She turned to him, eyes searching his face. "What are we doing, Elias?" "I don't know." His voice was raw. "All I know is that when I'm with you, the world makes sense again. And I haven't felt that since she died." "That's not love," Clara said quietly. "That's survival. Maybe that's all I have left to give." Clara felt something crack inside her chest. She'd spent months watching him heal, piece by careful piece. She'd told herself she was just helping, just being kind. But somewhere along the way, she'd fallen for the broken man in the garden, and now she was paying the price. "I need to tell you something," she said. Elias waited. "I'm not who you think I am." His expression shifted. Guarded. "What does that mean?" Clara took a breath. "I knew who you were before you came here. I knew about Amelia, about the accident." The color drained from his face. "How?" "I used to work at the hospital where they brought her. I was a nurse in the ER that night." Elias went very still. "You were there?" "I was the one who called you." "Who told you she didn't make it?" The confession hung in the air like a guillotine. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was shaking. "Because I didn't think you'd remember. It was chaos that night. You were halfway around the world. I was just a voice on the phone delivering the worst news of your life." "Ow!" "This whole time, you knew. I recognized you the first day you came to the garden. And I didn't say anything because I thought, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I could just help you heal without dragging up that night again." Leah stood abruptly, backing away from her. "Was any of this real? Or was this just you trying to fix your guilt?" "It's real," Clara said, standing too. "Everything I feel for you is real. How can I believe that? How can I believe anything anymore? Because I'm telling you the truth now. Because I'm not hiding. No, you're just confessing after I kissed you. After I started to trust you." His laugh was bitter. "God, I'm an idiot. Elias, please, did you know about Marcus? About Victoria's lies?" "No. I swear, I didn't know any of that." He stared at her, searching for deception, for anything that would justify the betrayal he felt. But all he saw was pain, hers, reflecting his. "I need space," he said finally. "I need to think." Clara nodded, tears burning her eyes. "Okay." He walked away, and she let him go. For 3 days, Elias didn't come to the garden. Clara worked alone, hands steady, even as her heart fractured. She understood his anger, understood his need to retreat. But on the 4th day, it wasn't Elias who found her. It was Victoria. "He's gone," Victoria said without preamble. Clara looked up sharply. "What? Left this morning?" "Checked out of the retreat. I thought you should know." "Why are you telling me this?" Victoria's expression was complicated. "Because I've spent 10 months trying to make him hurt. And then I saw him with you, and I realized he already does. Just not the way I wanted. What do you want from me?" "Nothing." Victoria pulled an envelope from her purse, handing it to Clara. "Amelia wrote this the day before she died. She never sent it, but I found it in her things." Clara took the envelope with shaking hands. It was addressed to Elias. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because maybe you can give him what I couldn't. Peace." Oh. Victoria's eyes were wet now, her armor cracking. "My sister loved him. And she'd want him to be happy, even if I don't." She left before Clara could respond. Clara opened the letter with trembling fingers. "Elias, by the time you read this, I'll have told you everything. About the doubts, the consultations, the moments I almost walked away. I need you to understand it was never about not loving you. It was about being scared. Scared that your work mattered more than I did. Scared that I was losing you to grief and ambition. But I was wrong. I see that now. You're not lost. You're just hurting. And instead of helping you, I ran. I'm coming home tonight. I'm going to tell you everything, and we're going to fix this. Together. Because you're my home, Elias. You always have been. I love you. I'm sorry. And I can't wait to start over. Amelia Clara read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she made a decision. She found Elias's address in Manhattan, bought a train ticket, showed up at his penthouse at midnight. When he opened the door, surprise and anger warred on his face. What are you doing here? Something I should have done the night she died. Clara held out the letter. She wrote this. The day before the accident, Victoria gave it to me. Elias took it, hand shaking. He read it, standing in the doorway. Clara watched him break apart and reform in the span of 3 minutes. When he finished, he looked at her. She was coming home, yes, and I wasn't there. But you would have been. If you'd known. You would have dropped everything. Elias's face crumpled. I loved her so much. I know. Clara stepped closer. And she knew. That's what matters. He looked at her, really looked. Why did you come here? After I pushed you away? Because you needed to see this. Needed to know that your love was real, even if the ending was wrong. And us. His voice was barely a whisper. What are we? Clara took a shaky breath. We're 2 people who met in a garden. Who helped each other survive. But you're still in love with her. And I can't compete with a ghost. Clara, it's okay, she said, even though it wasn't. I understand. She turned to leave, but Elias caught her hand. Don't go. I have to. You need time to grieve properly. To let her go, and then? Clara looked back at him, tears in her eyes. And then, if you still want to find me, you know where I'll be. She kissed his cheek, gentle and final, and walked away, leaving Elias standing in the doorway. Amelia's letter in one hand, his heart in pieces at his feet. Asterisk 6 months passed. Clara returned to St. Matthew's, to the garden, to the quiet rhythm of growing things. She didn't expect to hear from Elias. Didn't wait for him, but she thought about him. Every time she planted dahlias, every time the wind moved through the trees, she'd made her peace with it. Some people come into your life to heal you, and some to teach you how to let go. Elias had been both. Spring turned to summer, and the garden bloomed wild and furious. Clara worked until her hands ached, until exhaustion pulled her into dreamless sleep. She was trimming roses on a Tuesday morning when she heard footsteps on the stone path. She didn't look up. Probably another guest seeking silence. Those looked good, her hands stilled. She knew that voice. Had heard it in her dreams for months. Slowly she turned. Elias stood at the garden gate, thinner than she remembered, but his eyes were different, clearer, present. He said softly, "Hi." They stared at each other across the garden, a lifetime of words trapped between them. "You came back," Clara said finally. "I had to. I couldn't leave things the way we did. It's been 6 months. I know. I needed time." To let her go properly, he stepped closer. Amelia's letter helped. Knowing she loved me, knowing we would have fixed things. It gave me permission to stop punishing myself. Clara's throat tightened. I'm glad. I went to therapy. Talked about the guilt, the anger, all of it. And somewhere in the middle of healing, I realized something. That loving Amelia doesn't mean I can't love again. It means I know how. Clara's heart hammered. Elias, I'm not asking you to fix me. I'm not looking for an escape. He was standing right in front of her now. I'm asking if you'll take a chance on someone who's learning how to live again. She wanted to say yes. Wanted to fall into his arms and pretend the last 6 months hadn't been agony. But she couldn't ignore the fear. What if you wake up one day and realize, I'm not her? What if I'm not enough? You're not her, Elias said gently. And that's the point. Amelia was my past. A beautiful, painful, complicated past. But Clara, you're my present, my choice. My now? How do I know you mean it? Because I spent 6 months learning to live without you, and it was the loneliest I've ever been. Because I could have come back in a month or a week and convinced myself I was healed, but I waited. I did the work, and I'm still here. Clara felt tears sliding down her face. I'm scared. So am I. He reached out, cupping her face gently. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. She searched his eyes, looking for the ghost of Amelia, for the broken man who'd first stumbled into her garden. But all she saw was Elias, present, real, choosing her. Okay, she whispered. Okay? Okay, she smiled through her tears. Let's be scared together. He kissed her then, soft and certain, and it felt like coming home. When they broke apart, Clara laughed, wiping her eyes. So what now? Now, Elias grinned. I help you finish trimming these roses. And then maybe we plant something new. What kind of something? I don't know yet, but I figure we have time to find out. They worked side by side as the sun climbed higher, warming the garden. Around them, flowers bloomed without apology, wild and resilient. Clara glanced at Elias, dirt under his nails, a real smile on his face, and felt something settle in her chest. This wasn't a fairy tale. It was messy and complicated and built on the ruins of grief. But it was real. And maybe that was enough. Later that evening, as they sat on the garden bench, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold, Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and silver. A locket. This was Amelia's, he said quietly. She wore it every day. I've been carrying it like a weight, like I couldn't let go. Clara said nothing, just listened. But I realized something. Keeping her memory doesn't mean carrying her forever. It means honoring what she taught me about love. About choosing someone every single day. He opened the locket. Inside were 2 tiny photographs. One of Amelia, smiling bright and beautiful, and one empty space. I want to fill this, Elias said, looking at Clara. With you. Not to replace her, but to remember that love doesn't end. It transforms. Clara's tears fell freely now. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything, she nodded. And Elias carefully placed a small photo of them together, taken that morning in the garden beside Amelia's. 2 loves. 2 chapters. One heart learning to beat again. He closed the locket and put it around Clara's neck. Thank you, he whispered, for teaching me that life doesn't end with loss. It just begins differently. Clara leaned into him, and they sat together as the stars began to emerge, one by one, breaking through the darkening sky. In the distance, wind moved through the dahlia bed, and for just a moment, Clara could have sworn she heard laughter. Soft, approving, letting go. And in that garden, beneath a sky full of stars, 2 broken people chose each other. Not perfectly. Not without scars, but wholly, bravely, together. The end.